What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and welcome to part 1 of my walkthrough for Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Now, if you've never tuned in to one of my walkthroughs before, the purpose of this series is going to be to obtain 100% of all the trophies in the game, or the Platinum Trophy if you're playing on PlayStation. In addition to that, we're going to be going into things like boss strategies, putting your build together, and really just teaching you everything you need to enjoy this game to the fullest. Now, a couple things up front. I do have a starter guide that I would highly recommend because there's a couple systems in this game that are a little convoluted. We're obviously going to be going through those as we play, but if you want a upfront introduction to all those, check out the starter guide. That'll be pinned in the description and in the comments. In addition to that, if there is anything that I happen to miss or something that gets patched and changed, I will be dropping a pinned comment about that on the appropriate episode. Every now and again after I do these guides, stuff gets added in the future, and it is good to address those updates, but obviously I can't just like replace the video. So if something seems off, just check the pinned comments and you'll probably find an answer there. But either way, let's jump on in and get started. So as this is the walkthrough and we're looking to fit a lot of information into a short amount of time, we are going to be skipping the cutscenes. I know a lot of people like the cutscenes, and I have all the cutscenes in the Let's Play of this game, which is like, you know, my first blind experience of it. But just in terms of getting through it, I really want to try to fit everything into the video. And so it's a lot harder when, you know, we're adding 5-10 minutes of cutscenes onto each episode. All right. Just for those curious, we are playing on PS5, of course, and then from a graphics perspective, we are playing with prioritized FPS.
It's a medicine created from refined chi. With it, you can heal most wounds.
Just waiting on that guy to stop talking. So we had actually started playing on this already, but I decided the episode had a little bit of volume issues, so I wanted to redo it. But we're going to be talking about basics as we get to them. But the first thing over here is just kind of a piece of negligible loot, and that is going to be a genuine chi flake. In general, I'm just going to point out stuff like that. I'm not worried about grabbing every genuine chi flake in the game. That's worth 100 chi, and I get more than that killing an average enemy. But so, first, let's talk about attacking. Now, we have normal attacks and spirit attacks. Another good way to think of this is going to be like light attacks and heavy attacks. But normal attacks, they don't cost anything. You just throw these on out, and these are going to build up spirit. And then we're going to expend spirit by using our spirit attack, which is triangle. So for this enemy, if I attack, you'll notice a blue gauge that's building up, and that's my spirit gauge. And when I do a spirit attack, it's going to use up all of that and bring my gauge back to 0. Now, if I were to keep attacking like this, you'll see that I'm actually building up the spirit, and I'm putting it negative and putting it into orange. And so there's a couple different actions that are going to do that. Martial arts, wizardry spells, which we'll get to later, and of course spirit attacks. But so the idea of this game is it's a take and give system. It's a tug of war. The idea is as you deflect attacks and you attack the enemy, you're building up spirit, and then you're spending that on abilities to deal damage. So pretty simple system when you think about it. And just to kind of show, you know, if I were to hit an enemy, you can see I did 66 right there, whereas if I were to build up my spirit a little bit and then do that same attack, you can see I did 110 right there. And so obviously the more spirit you have, the more damage that spirit attack is going to do to targets. Now, moving on from there, next we have deflecting. The idea with deflecting is you use circle to redirect the enemy's attack, not quite a parry, because you more, you deflect it, you move it, and you slide on past them. Now, one thing I recommend doing is holding the block button while you're doing this, because if I'm just trying to deflect and I'm messing up, I'm taking spirit damage and I'm taking health damage. If I'm blocking, I'm only going to be taking spirit damage. So I find that blocking and holding that while you go for the deflect is a much safer way to kind of learn to deflect. Another thing that's really nice about playing it like that is when you're just running around and deflecting, you may be a little bit too far forward or a little bit too far backward or whatever the case is. Whereas if you're holding block, you're right where you want to be. You're right on top of the enemy, and I'm just waiting for that move. So personally, I find it to be a lot easier doing that, but it's just kind of a little trick that I think helps.
If we lower that, it might serve as a platform.
More than likely, we're not going to actually need that shortcut, but let's grab it now anyway. And you can see from that, even though I'm not targeting that enemy and he's coming from the side there, still able to deflect.
Stay behind me, please.
I think it's important to note is that the deflect is, it's, you know, this isn't like you have to match up one-on-one with the enemy. You can deflect at any time. And really, to drive that home, you can deflect anything in this game. You can deflect explosions. You can deflect environmental traps. Pretty much anything that could do damage to you can be deflected. Now, talking about critical blows, these are the most important things to really get your deflect on. If these hit you, they're going to lower your morale, which we're going to talk about in a second. But on top of that, they're going to do a ton of damage and they're going to really hurt. Deflecting one, on the other hand, will usually wind an enemy and leave them open to your own critical blow. And you can always tell when this is coming because of the red. Now, alternatively, if you're really bad at deflecting, you could try and dodge away. But I'm going to be honest with y'all, deflecting is the name of the game in Wo Long. If you're struggling with deflecting, you're not going to have a good time playing this game. I mean, I'm sure it's possible to get through the game without deflecting, but it's going to be very hard. Anyway, after you win somebody, your spirit attack will then go into a crit and finish them on off. Grab this over here. Make sure you grab this. You're going to find a couple of these throughout the game. They're considered like key items, and you need all of them for a trophy. And of course, we have our first battle flag. Now, there are two things I want to point out. We have morale and we have fortitude. As we find battle flags and we find marking flags, that is going to raise our fortitude, whereas our morale is more of a in-stage power level. So right now, if you look at the top right, you can see 2 and a downward arrow. That signifies that my fortitude is currently at 2. And right now, it's also at 2 in terms of morale. But if I were to go up and kill this enemy, you can see my morale has now jumped up to 3. And basically, as we continue to kill enemies and we deflect critical blows and whatnot, we're going to raise our morale. And you can actually get this higher than bosses, and it'll give you an advantage going into the fight. So on top of that, if I look at enemies, I can see that the level 3 guy is going to be worth more morale. If you look at that 3 on my screen, you can see it's showing how much my gauge is going to grow for killing particular enemies. And the idea here is if I were to die right now, I would go back down to 2, as that's my fortitude level. But I can raise things, I can have basically a temporary boost in the form of morale. So for now, we're going to kill this enemy. Choose the backstab tutorial, which actually, let's talk about that real fast. So when it comes to getting backstabs on enemies, you can of course just hold the left stick to walk up slowly. If you're struggling with that, you can hold block to walk up slowly. Both of those require a lot of patience. So personally, what I like to do is tap block as I walk towards them. Because if you're going up too fast, they're going to notice you. But if you're approaching them while tapping block, you can see that he like kind of sees me, but that meter never quite fills up because I'm constantly alternating between moving fast and not moving fast. So it's a little goofy, but it's a really useful way to get up and kill enemies. On top of that, if you're fast, and I mean you were sprinting up, you can also just sprint straight up and hit triangle. Very much from a sprint, otherwise they'll be able to react to it. Grab this. I'm gonna go over here, hop up here, grab this marking flag. See, that's raised my fortitude up to rank 3. Hop up here, and grab that, and then go through these crates. I'm gonna run back here. Now there's gonna be a tiger here. It shouldn't look at you, so don't worry about it. But just head on around and jump up top and go here. Another little piece of loot on the roof over here that we can get. Down here we have some equipment loot. And then we're going to jump up and we're going to go down here and open the chest. Now this tiger, I would not suggest fighting right now. It's a morale rank of 15. You can fight it. You're going to have a really bad time and you're not even getting anything for it. The only thing you're getting for taking down that tiger is going to be a little bit of morale. So I'd suggest you just sprint through that fire. Run, and get over here and rest. And that's going to... Oh no. Okay, never mind. The rest went off. But yeah, get over here and rest. That's going to de-aggro the tiger, and we're going to be ready to continue along. Now, obviously, Deliveries has had that arrow. Any pre-order bonuses or deluxe edition bonuses you're going to get from that. We're not going to be using that in the event that you don't have that gear. I don't want to have an unfair advantage. But if you have access to that stuff, I would suggest putting it on. Just get some extra stats, which is quite nice. So we are going to jump up here. And jump across. Grab that. Let's see, we have 2 enemies. We'll kill this one first. Kill that one. And then there's this enemy right here. Punch him. And we'll grab this marking flag.
In truth, I ended up in this village after fleeing.
All right, let's actually level up a little bit.
My father, who worked for the government.
The first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to these and choose them up. I don't really need them, but
I long for the day when I can
get
find
every little ounce we have for level.
together.
Now, as for leveling up your stats, so Wood is going to be all about self buffs. It's going to have lightning type wizardry spells. It gives you more health per point than the other ones, so safe bet. Fire is all about aggression. You get more spirit the more you're attacking. Fast cast spells, kind of high risk, high reward. I'm a big fan. Earth is a very tanky treat. It's a very safe bet for new players. You're going to get more spirit gain on your deflects, so you really can't go wrong with Earth. Metal is very interesting. Metal is more debilitation, so we have Toxin, we have basically curses that we're able to put on the enemy. If it's your first time playing, I wouldn't suggest Metal. I think it's one of the harder trees to learn and be good at. And then lastly, we have Water, which is going to be spirit consumption rate on deflects, in addition to stealth, and on top of that, we are able to chill enemies, so slow enemies down. Now, for the purpose of the walkthrough series, we are able to respec, and later on, we're probably going to go for a Water, Wood, Earth style build, but for the time being, and with where we're at in the game, right now, we want to get our Wood up to 3 for a particular spell, and we're going to start pumping points into Earth. Now, every 5 levels, you're going to get 1 wizardry spell point that you can spend, and we can do that over here. By the end of the game, you're going to have enough points for everything, so there's no concerns there. But, you know, early on, at least, it's going to get you to certain things faster. So for Wood, I'd highly suggest you pick up Lightning Bolt, because next we're going to pick up Absorb Vitality, which is a really nice quality of life. In Fire, I'd highly suggest Blasting Flare. In Earth, you want Rock Spike, so that we can get Imposing Slab next. For Metal, go for Poison Bubbles, just so we have access to Toxin. And then over in Water, you can really go with whatever you want. We're not going to need any of these anytime soon, so we could grab Cloud Stance, but alternatively, you could do Frost Lance since you can use that right now. Now, to talk about a couple numbers here, looking in the bottom left, those numbers mean I have 3 Wood, 1 Fire, 2 Earth, 1 Metal, 1 Water. Looking over kind of the middle right, just to detail what those numbers mean. Frost Lance, I need to have 1 in Water to use it. I have a morale cost of 0, meaning I can use it as soon as a mission starts, and a spirit cost of 260. That's how much it's going to go towards my gauge. Something like Unseeable Form, I would need to have 8 leveled into my Water Virtue. Morale is going to have to be at 12 for me to be able to use it, and it's going to have a spirit cost of 1050. So just to explain what those numbers all mean. From here, set your wizardry spells. Personally, I like having a Blasting Flare down there. Rock. Nope, not you. I want Rock Spike there. This top slot I usually use for a buff, but we'll put Lightning Bolt on there for now, and then we'll put on Poison Bubbles. And then the spell casting is super easy. You just hit the right trigger, and then the corresponding button to use your spell.
I'm sure a person of your caliber shall have little difficulty mastering wizardry spells.
So you can see dealing some damage with that, and we also have status build-up. Now, the 5 statuses each do something different. We're able to check these right in the menus of the game, which I will show off in just a moment here.
We've done well to get this far.
So if we go to Documents, Effect Icons, Negative, we can see them right here. So using Wood and Lightning is going to apply Shock. This is going to gradually decrease Spirit, as well as decreasing the Toxin resistance. So as a rule of thumb, each element has a counter. Metal counters Wood, Wood counters Earth, Earth counters Water, Water counters Fire. But on top of that, getting afflicted with an element will make you more vulnerable to the previous. So what I mean by this is if an enemy is burning, they're going to be more vulnerable to ice. If an enemy is already afflicted by ice, they're going to be more vulnerable to earth. So this is something to keep in mind when applying multi-statuses, and it's going to come more into effect leveling up later. But for now, just know that shock is going to reduce toxin resistance, and it's going to gradually decrease spirit. Burns is going to cause damage over time on the enemy. Heaviness is going to increase the amount of spirit damage they receive and decrease how much they can gain from attacking and deflecting. Toxin is going to gradually reduce health and spirit. And then lastly, chill is going to increase the automatic depletion when their spirit is high, so their high spirit won't last as long, and it's going to prevent it from automatically recovering when it's low. And early on, it's going to take a while for you to really apply statuses to enemies. And keep in mind, enemies can have statuses of their own, so you can see how it was a lot easier to build earth on these little zombie dudes than it was to build fire on them. Just grabbing everything on this first level. Martial arts we already talked, but R1, and then you press the associated button. Better weapons will have more martial arts on them. Early on, you're only going to have one.
I get the feeling that you are destined for great things. We shall find out soon.
In general, I like using martial arts more early in the mission. Once I get access to my wizardry spells, I'm usually more reliant on those. Oh man, got a little overzealous there. Let me go get rid of that archer. He's rather annoying. One fun thing with the marking flags is... Oh, I ain't grabbing it now. Oh, that was almost really bad. The marking flags, when you raise them, are always going to restore your health. Just a hot little tip there. Key flake. And up here we have the boss, if you will. So...
A formidable opponent, no doubt.
One thing I want to point out here is generally after I deflect and I see that I have an opening, that's when I'm going to go for a spirit attack. And one of the reasons for this is after deflecting a target, I'm going to give myself an opening usually because I've thrown them off balance. And so that's going to be a good opportunity to get in and do that spirit attack. You know, using these enemies as kind of a test bed to show this real fast. Just going to kill the archer since you were being annoying before. Well, so after they do one of those attacks, they are that's going to win them. But even just a normal attack, you can see how it kind of redirects them. And on top of that, you'll notice that I get positive spirit just for getting off that deflect. So, since it's going to cost spirit to use that heavy spirit attack, that's why I like to get the deflect and then go for that heavy, whether it's going to be a critical or just a normal attack. Now you'll also notice my morale just went up to level 11. And if you are really struggling on the boss that we're about to fight, one of the things you could do is just fight a couple of these enemies and get your morale higher. You could go all the way up to 25 if you really wanted to, but honestly I think going past 15 is probably unnecessary. But just wanted to put that out there. You know, if you're struggling at all, farm up the morale. That's the whole point of the morale system, is to give you a way to boost it higher and give you an advantage against a boss. Now, in terms of death, let's talk about what happens when you die. So right now we have a little bit over 2,000 genuine ki, and we have a morale of 11. If I was to let this guy kill me... Come on, a bit more. A couple things have happened. My genuine ki has been cut in half, and you'll also notice that the morale that I had past that fortitude rank has been lost. So I've gone down to 10, but we now have a revenge target. Now the idea behind the revenge target is it means this is the enemy that killed me. If I were to go up and kill him, I'm going to get back everything I lost. So let's go ahead and kill this guy. And you'll you'll notice I got back my morale. So that morale that I lost came back. I got back the genuine chi that I lost. And on top of that, I'm getting just the chi and morale boost that I would have gotten for just killing that enemy regardless. We're going to go ahead and start pumping our earth. We wanted that to 3. Our next goal is going to be to get earth on up even higher in terms of where we're going next. We're going to get absorb vitality. Probably amp damage. Well, anyway, we'll get into all that stuff later. But before we go into the boss, let's see what we have equipment-wise that we can throw on here. Got a 2-star polearm. We'll use that. I'm not even really worried about a secondary weapon. It's got Marching Dragon. Ugh, I hate Marching Dragon. Genuine Key of Tension. Yeah, actually, I'll use the 1-star. So to talk about loot real fast, the main difference in stars is going to be the amount of affixes it has. So this has martial arts spirit consumption. This has martial arts spirit consumption and genuine chi obtention. So depending on which one you use, the more stars will give you the more bonuses. You can hit the middle button to pull up description at any time to check out anything, so I can see exactly what these effects do. I can also tab over on the weapon so that I can see a video of the special ability of that weapon. And you can do that on anything, even if we go over to stats. You know, I can go over here and I can break this down and see, for example, leveling earth. That's increased the damage and heaviness that I deal with my stone attacks, as well as getting a little bit of defense there. So I can see all this specific stuff just by hitting that back button. So anything you're ever unsure about, make sure to utilize that button and check stuff on out.
I hope that everyone who escaped the brutality has gotten to safety now.
Now let me I didn't check the armor at all. Go Turban Champion helmet. Let's use... we'll go for that. I'm just going defense heavy stuff for now. There we go. All right. Another thing, so equipment weight, we have a couple different thresholds here. We are right below 70%, which means that we are going to dodge into a roll. If we're above 70%, we're just going to have a roll. If we're below 30%, we're able to just keep flipping around like that, how we were at the start. If you go above 100% on equipment weight, you will not be able to deflect anymore. And this is a thing I see a lot of players messing up with, is they get up to 100 and they're like, my deflect's broken, what's happening? I can't play the game. Your armor is too heavy. Take off some armor. Very simple fix. But so just put on whatever you have. I personally would recommend a polearm for this fight. I think it works pretty well against what we're going up against. But we're about to fight the first boss, and honestly, it's a little bit of a stopgap for some players. So this is the general man. To briefly talk about him before we jump in here. In the first phase, we just want constant aggression. You're just going to attack, and then do a spirit attack. As long as you don't let up, he's not going to really have a chance to actually attack you outside of a critical, and that's going to be very telegraphed, so we'll be able to back off. In the second phase, he gets a little bit like demonically infused, and there are 3 critical attacks we want to look out for. In the first phase, where it's more about aggression, the second phase is going to be more about patience. He's going to have one where he launches his hand at us. It's going to be very easy to deflect to the side or deflect into it. He has one that's a multi-hit combo. I like to back up, let him do the first swing, and deflect the second swing. And then after he does that multi-hit, occasionally after you counter it, he'll go into another instant counterattack. And when you see that one coming, either deflect into him or try to dodge off to the side. It's also very important to keep your health near topped off in the second phase. In fact, I'd suggest just saving your heals for the second phase. A little bit of practice here, and you'll get the first phase down to where you don't need to heal, or you only use 1 heal at the very most. We don't actually need to defeat this boss. In the second phase, we'll be able to activate our Divine Spirit, and we're going to be doing that by hitting triangle and circle when the gauge has filled. But for now, let's jump in, and we'll show you how it works. So attack, and then spirit attack. And I'm just going to keep doing that. 2, 3, 4, spirit attack. There's a critical. After a critical, make sure you get your own critical. 1, 2, 3, 4, spirit attack. After a deflect, 2, 3, nope. Got a little too overzealous in my attacks there. And you can kind of see how I was talking about, though, with the with him telegraphing those attacks a lot. For the most part, you're going to see every time one is coming. be able to counter him up just fine. But yeah, first phase, very, very simple, very straightforward. After that, let's get our health topped off. And this phase, we're going to be holding block a lot and just focused on deflecting. When he does that, I like to deflect to the side. There's the critical. We'll break the arm, attack, and spear hit. I'm going to go ahead and hit him. We'll try and throw out a little extra fire into the mix there. And you can see there's a gauge near our martial arts that is now broken. And that's what is going to win this fight. 1, 2. He might do it again. No? Okay, he didn't do the second hit. See, all I'm doing here is just blocking and then deflecting, and occasionally getting a hit when my spear gauge is getting built up. There we go. Get another crit. And we do that maybe one more time and he'll go down. We almost have our Divine Beast gauge. So deflect, deflect, now back up. This fight is all about patience. It's just about learning how important the deflect timing is. There it is. See, he likes to go for the 1-2 into that Dragon Fist. So anyway, now we can hit triangle and circle. That is going to summon on up our Divine Beast. Divine Beast is going to come on out and take this guy down. But of course, we are skipping the cutscenes because, well, we got stuff to talk about. This one's going to take, this is a little bit of a long load because it's putting us into the second level. But yeah, that's going to be it. The first boss, to be honest, if it takes a little bit of time, just take it on that boss. That boss is all about just
chaos.
God, this part gets
It
so
needs
loud.
one like you to bring peace to it.
Yes, I know.
I cannot let you die.
I know you can't. I'm special. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a good game. Imagine a game where you just play as like a dude. Anyway, so defeating the boss, you're gonna get a bunch of loot. Wow, we actually hit the lottery on that. He gave us a 4-star version of it, which is crazy good. I have not seen that. I've killed this guy probably about 8 times, and I've never seen a 4-star drop right at the start. This walkthrough is off to a fantastic start. But either way, with him down, we are going to wrap things up. Now, before we close on out, we're just going to run ahead, and there is going to be our first battle flag for the next mission. We're going to obviously cover this in the next episode, but if you go to travel, basic training is now available. I would highly suggest you go through this. This is going to cover everything we covered in this video. It's going to cover, you know, attacking, deflecting, ranged weapons, using the beast, martial arts. It is very worthwhile to do this basic training if it's your first time playing this game. Almost as valuable as my own starter guide in the walkthrough, I would say. But either way, we are going to wrap things up here. Really hope the volume is good this time around. And either way, we will catch you soon as we continue on with the second level in the walkthrough, 2 Chivalrous Heroes.